you're watching live today. So the purpose journey, this is a continuation of these little videos or vlogs, if you like, of my video journal, and identifying what phase I'm currently in, journaling about it, and what I'm learning from these phases, especially the challenges and how these lessons might be relatable in my desired future. For example, Victor, who set this homework for us, he bitterly battled with addiction, which was rough, and it was perfect training for and gave him a unique edge as a coach, and what we need to do in order to progress into the next phases. So I'd like you guys to think about these phases as well, if you identify with any of them, and if in that case being supported, and if it can be very comforting to remind yourself of that when you were in those phases, how you've moved on, and take time. So the phases, by the way, and there are videos on each of them, hopefully the ones at least that I've been through, because I think I'm in my purpose. So calling, the nudge, the guide, the dark night of the soul, the clarity, and the purpose. And this video is about the guidance. So once you've taken action on those little nudges and on your calling, mentors, books, courses, and the synchronicities, they appear and help you navigate your path. And again, as I said, my calling was at 11. The nudges I had various different times during leaving, from times when leaving work and landing the perfect job straight out of school and thinking, no, this isn't for me. Money isn't at that time. It wasn't about having money. It was about connecting to my creative self, and then going off to college and doing all those things. Now, part of that again happened during, and I didn't mention in the previous nudge video about going traveling, one of the incidents, which is about the guidance, came through in a beautiful synchronicity. So when I went traveling, I backpacked up the west coast of America. So I flew into San Francisco, or well, flew from the UK into Charlotte, from Charlotte to San Francisco, from San Francisco, worked my way up, right up into Canada, and then back down to Seattle, and had a flight booked from Seattle to come home in November, I think. So it was all of August I was there, September, and the beginning of November was when I came home. It was like 3 months I was gone for. On the flight out there, so few books around that time, and I was really lucky in my teens, and at college I had friends that were into meditation. So at 16 years old I started to meditate. I was listening to Louise L. Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, because I'd had panic attacks, so that book had been handed to me, and she totally changed the trajectory of my life. I've spoken about this in people that are so inspiring. So her influence on how our thoughts create our feelings and our illnesses and disease within us, I know can be challenging for some people, because they're like, well, I don't want cancer, for example. I don't want, but knowing and understanding the actual thoughts and feelings that create that. And one of the synchronicities around that time, when I was about 16, was watching some documentary on actually the cells of a cancer cell. What creates cancer is the cell stops committing suicide. When it's like not good, it kind of is meant to commit suicide, literally turn itself off, so then it would go and it would hit. But that doesn't happen in a cancer cell. It gets switched the opposite way and then creates a build up and this mass. That's a very, very simplified way of looking at it, but that I thought was interesting, because it linked to what she was saying about how we need to love ourselves and knowing that we're enough. So that was one little synchronicity around that 16, 17 years old. beautiful understandings of Louise L. Hay, the Celestine Prophecy, understanding about energy, and all of these kind of concepts, even when I was at college, was sort of there in the background. It wasn't until sort of the year before my mum got sick that I found Abraham Hicks. My cousin had been listening to her for a long time. We'd spoken, she recommended Pablo Picasso's, what's it called? The Alchemist. I'd read The Alchemist, Celestine Prophecies, and all of those books around that time. Anyway, early 20s, traveling. So one of the nudges had happened, and I had got, again, I was in a job I really loved, but things weren't quite working out. That had come up, that I had sort of been demoted because I'd made a mistake, and because it was in a recession, they'd said to me, like, had it not been the recession, it would have been just be like little talking to, because of the finances we need. It was kind of used, they were letting me know they were using it as an excuse to downgrade me, because they needed to do that, and I got it. But I took that opportunity to walk away, to take my savings and go. I thought, if I don't do this now, I know, and again, this nudge, that was like but it was also strong guidance and calling, need to go traveling. So I went on this plane, and even at the airport, I was kind of like doing my insurance at the airport and do like all little bits and pieces. I was on my own. I wasn't traveling with people. It's why I'd picked America, because then the language wouldn't have been a barrier. I was so nervous. I knew loads of people that had gone to like Thailand and the Far East and done much more traveling than me. And they were like, you've got to do it, you'll love it. Because I had always wanted to do it. And I'd only done it, and I'd been doing 2 or 3 holidays a year, doing it that way. I hadn't done a bulk travel like this. So I picked up sticks, a proper backpack that I'd borrowed from my cousin, traditional backpack. And on the plane, on the way out there, the synchronicity of sitting next to this beautiful woman who was referring to her friend that she was going out to meet. Irony of this was that I was not quite ready, even though I've been understanding all these concepts, I really resonated with her, and everything she and I were so on the same wavelength, but I was like a novice at these concepts, at these understandings of how we manifest our life. But one of the beautiful things that I think about is her friend that she was going to go and stay with in New York, or in America. I don't even think he was in New York at the time. He actually, it turns out that years later, someone else I follow is married to him. And I always find this funny. I think the lady's name was Elizabeth, and she was saying, oh, he was into all of this stuff. And it turns out that whether he was at that time or he became a Qigong teacher. And it was almost like, if I'd have kind of followed that guidance a little bit more, that's the route I was meant to take. But I took a detour, came home, kind of got back with my boyfriend and had children, and then went back to it before I actually then found Qigong. But that was the first time it ever been mentioned, I believe, at the time. Whether she might not, in fact, she might not have even mentioned it. He might not have even been doing that, but it was definitely him. And I always find the irony in that I was kind of always meant to meet or be in this kind of circle of people. So I'd found out about this Qigong years later, and kind of those big, how things have these wonderful synchronicities. But I came back from the US and then went back into the old mentality, oh, I need to do my CV and get a job. And I remember sending because she was emailing, we weren't really WhatsApping or phoning. And so she kept getting these emails about forwarding on and jobs. And so she was like, look, I need to break off our friendship. You seem like you're in a really negative place. And I can't have that in my life at the moment because I'm trying to. So I was that person that I've then had people like that are thinking, oh, I can't handle where they are at the moment. How do I help them? I don't think I can, because I'm trying to keep myself in this state. So we've all been through those. But that guidance and actually dealing with that situation was a beautiful gift. So there was many things during this time, like at 16, the meditation, this guy Maraji, learning about Louise L. Hay, learning about Maraji did this thing, they were aspirants and they would give you knowledge, which was basically meditation techniques. He flew all over the world doing this stuff, and it was a bit cult-like as far as my dad was concerned. There was just video library for it and watching this, because we didn't eat, that YouTube weren't a thing. So now, I mean, it would just be online. I'd never even thought to look, but yeah. And but it spoke to my heart. It spoke to an understanding that I already had in me, just like this woman, we're talking about synchronicities and meeting. Really amazing for that whole flight, that journey, when we're talking about all of these things. And she was going to work and stay with her friend Stephen. And like I said, and then years later, I'm watching, what's his name? Aziz. Can't remember his name. A channeler. And again, another sort of roundabout way is where channeling was sort of always meant to be on the cards, had come back to me. And he was saying about automatic writing, which is how I do my writing now, kind of writing down and just writing and allowing yourself to open up to the higher self part of you, and letting go of that, oh, it's me just writing and talking to myself, just whatever comes back into the head, just writing. And I started that practice, and that's when I first realized that that voice actually wasn't me. It was the greater part of me, because when you read it, it wasn't it was you are. Even the way it was spoken, as if I was speaking to someone else. And when I'd read it, I was like, oh my God. And realizing that, and then kind of allowing myself to open up to that side of myself, was part of my opening up to my guides. So there's that Qigong little story of knowing that was something that I needed to know about, that had come out from someone else I'd followed. So like all these people, the Humanity Rising team, and I'm an advocate for HeartMath. I support them, and so therefore as a member I get like that they send you or you have access to the research and the forms and stuff, all their stuff, which is really interesting. And as an ambassador to sort of share that stuff. And so Greg Braden and had been talking about HeartMath, and that had led me to Humanity Rising's teams, and they were doing through lockdown the was it 100 days? I think it started off every day with women, different leadership, and then they've moved on, they've done different topics. They're brilliant. They're on YouTube if you want to go check them out. I was watching all those videos. Someone started talking about Qigong. It's like, what is Qigong and energy and this movement? And this is where it all tied in. All these little pieces to that puzzle had tied in. And then as I was sort of opening up as well around that time to being a vessel, if you is one word, I would put an antenna, becoming one with the fullness of me, the other ways whatever way you would like to fit it into a box, because it's something to me that doesn't necessarily fit into a box. I was out one day just walking, and I hear this voice say, shake your arm and say the sound ka. I'm like, it sounded like there was someone literally standing with me. And I realised I couldn't talk to this thing, but I was like, okay, what does that? And so I started doing a little Googling. What does it mean? The sound ka is calling in the soul, shaking down and excess this energy down to free the energy that seemed stuck down my arm that I was having issues with after a meditation. So that was one of another beautiful guidance that had come through, along around the same time, the telepathic connection that I started to get with guidance that was coming through. All beautiful things. All, when they first started to come in, were a little bit scary, and I had to, as I said before, I had to say to back off. Then, of course, in 2020, I came across Matthias De Stefano's work, and a video just randomly popped up on YouTube of him talking about the Yo Soy project. And I knew whatever it was, I was fully prepared to email the guy and just go, whatever this is, I'm in. Every part of my being, all of my cells are lit up at what this is. I know I have to be part of this. This is like a calling on another level, a guidance on another level. And of course, then I started that whole year of the I Am path, where every day we would do the activations and the lives for 2 to 3 hours, with those meditations on a daily for that year. Then there was like a 6-month sort of gap before we actually went then ahead and went to Egypt with the planetary tasks that we did there, and the retuning, and kind of opened up. And I'd already been, like I say, journaling and opening up to that side, but that's when love language started to kind of to happen. In fact, my members on my little Patreon Telegram group, there's a little, I don't know if it's still available. I've always wondered how I can share those audios outside of that. I don't know how to download the audio from that, but there's this one where it literally started happening. So I sort of hit audio, so it records the sound of me doing it. It wasn't a video. I was just on my phone, hit the audio message to send to my little Telegram group at the time, of what was happening. And I could feel this presence of this like grandmother figure putting my body into place, and you hear it on the sound. She does it perfectly through my own voice. Then I copy, totally getting it wrong. It's like she's showing me the sounds that I need to make to align. It was really interesting, really bizarre feeling of like going, come on, straighten up, like get your body right. But my own hands doing it, but not, I wasn't like off somewhere. I know you, my concept of what challenge, they go away and then this thing comes in and is there. So I kind of, and at the time I'd been researching about entity manipulation and all. I had to let go of those doubts and know that the guidance was like perfectly aligned from the highest good, and calling in all of that. But this felt so organic. It's like, had it been the other way and I'd had to kind of surrender completely, it was showing me that I could be completely there at the same time and trust. And that's the way it's been since. It's I'm present all the time. I can speak at any one time. It's not like something takes over me, but it is also like, it's as though I'm witnessing a radio signal through me, and listening to the music of that radio and dancing with it at the same time, if that makes sense, because I'm very much there, I'm very much present. So that's the guide, and that is still happening to this day. I don't think that'll ever stop. And those beautiful synchronicities and navigating into my path, like courses like this one I'm doing, which I did actually back in 2022. And the irony and the beauty of the fact that the lady that is now on the course is a beautiful example of, I was actually doing that course, but my money mindset at the time of allowing my personal relationship with money to, it only comes from other sources, not through me, has what is been evolving and shifting and continually doing to in a better place of appreciation and gratitude, which I've always kind of been in that state, but it still there was stuff that I perceived as blocks, and so I didn't take up the opportunity. That wasn't an option in my mind at the time. um and it's like, well, that could have just as easily been you, because that is where you were, you're doing that work. But, and again, that in itself is a huge nudge and a huge push and huge guidance to know you're on the right track. Look what happened here. So where are your guides? Where do you feel like guidance comes in? What books is it that, like me, the Celestine Prophecy, Abraham Hicks, um, Bouchard was another one, Matthias de Stefano, all people that I've considered. Elizabeth Peru, meeting her was an amazing thing, and meeting Carl Gray, all of the people I met at the Hay House I Can Do It conference, Charlie Moret, who else was there? Crazy Sexy Juicing Lady, she was awesome. God, there was so many people that I can see them all in my head. But anyway, not for me to list. But definitely, then this book coming up and shifting again the direction and understanding we should go on with the Tay of Tantric Arts by Milka DeVos, and understanding and cultivating our own energy has been another path and tangent along these lines of our yin energy and our chi, and just understanding subtle light energy in itself, and the guidance that's come through, the colours, the beautiful imagery, the power of meditation as a guidance, and that connection dialogue, whether it be visually, audioly, or just a sense of knowing something, I feel is so important, and has been a huge part of my life. Like I said, at 16 years old, I was doing. So this is not something that I've started in the last 5 years since lockdown. I've had an awakening. No, this has been going on a long, long time. What has shifted is my direction and wanting to share that story in how my guidance, the vlogs I do, the videos, the YouTube channel, of, well, how can my story inspire others to connect to their creative self? And I hope that these videos are that for you. Let me know if they do, because actually it's good feedback. Not that I need you to validate it, but it's nice to see the feedback of the fact that, yes, actually this hits with me. This is where I too have been there, or I recognise that part of me that resonates. So, and I will continue with our next video on aspects of the dark night of the soul, which I think continues to happen, and lots of people, they see that aspect of their awakening, which actually happened before and after and during. I don't think it is one thing for me as such, although lots of people, they can distinctly say, no, that was the moment that I had my dark night of the soul, that I went through this period in my life where it was. Whereas I've always kind of put a positive spin on all of the good things in my life, so it was harder to see that, because you could argue that some of the traumatic things that happened to me in childhood were the dark night of my soul back then, but not understanding. So anyway, love and blessings. See you in our next video. Thanks for watching.